Welcome to the Life Makeovers podcast. My name is Cindy D. Whitmer, and I am the Midlife Makeover Coach, helping you turn your midlife into your best life, one step at a time. Through powerful conversations, my own midlife roller coaster story, and over 3 decades of helping people transform their lives through counseling and coaching, I am on a mission to help you create your own definition of success and happiness. Thank you for being here. Hey, everybody. It's Cindy here with the Life Makeovers podcast, and I am so happy to be with you today. Those of you who like to watch this on YouTube, I am outdoors. I am sitting outside my office on our back patio that's below our deck. And so just enjoying the beautiful fall weather, the beautiful fresh air. There's hummingbirds buzzing around me. The wind chimes are chiming. So you may hear stuff, you may see stuff, probably not see stuff because I'm sitting pretty close to the house, as you can tell. But anyway, that is what I'm doing. So those of you who are just listening to this, if you hear outdoor noises, that's because I am enjoying the beautiful outdoors. Isn't it a wonderful life that I can work outdoors? And my internet works okay and everything. So what a blessing it is. So thank you for just joining me today outside as I am going to share Four Immutable Laws of the Spirit by Harrison Owen, who was a gentleman who lived from 1935 to 2024. He just died in March of this year. And he was really a business icon. He started the organizational transformation movement many decades ago, organizational development. It's called many things now, but he really started that and developed a program called Open Space Technology, which was a format of meeting in professional, in business meetings, a way to conduct business meetings to get to solutions and ideas and so forth in a very concise manner. That was really revolutionary and so forth. But he was also apparently quite a spiritual person, found a lot of power in the spirit and thinking about spirit. And I just recently heard of this man. I'd never heard of him before. I mean, he had an amazingly colorful life. He had 2 marriages, 5 kids, several grandchildren, a great grandchild. He worked some in the civil rights movement at that very transitional time. He worked in government. He did many, many amazing things. But what I love the most that I've heard about him are these 4 immutable laws of the spirit. And, I don't talk a whole lot about God or, religious concepts or whatever, or spiritual concepts on my podcast. I do make reference to them occasionally. I happen to call that higher thing that I believe in, I call it God, I call it love, I call it divine creator, divine source, the universe. I have all kinds of words for it. You might too. You may have other words for it. You may not even believe in it. That's all okay with me. But today we're going to use his language and talk about the 4 immutable laws of the spirit and just see how these land for you. So here they are. And then I'm going to tell stories that really support these laws in my own life and see what you can think about in yours. So number 1, whoever is present are the right people. That's law number 1. Whoever is present are the right people. Number 2, whenever it begins is the right time. Whenever it begins is the right time. Number 3, whatever happens is the only thing that could have happened. Okay, whatever happens is the only thing that could have happened. And number 4, when it's over, it's over. Okay. So these are Harrison Owen's 4 immutable laws of the spirit. And really what I I believe he is saying through teaching these laws is that there are no mistakes in the world. Like there are no mistakes in the world, because he's basically saying that the right people are around at the right time, and things are happening only that are supposed to happen, and when things are over, they're over. I mean, there's a season for this and a season for that, kind of thing. And so there are no mistakes. There's nothing wrong. Everything is happening for us. Okay. Often I know it's easy and tempting to believe that things are happening to you out there in the world. Totally understand that. I've felt like a victim myself in life at times, for sure. But what a beautiful concept we could grasp that says everything is happening for us. If you can believe that, your life will get easier, I promise. And believing, these laws really speak to a universal concept, spiritual concept, saying all is well. All is well. So, again, let's look at these four laws. I'll tell some stories. And imagine, see what you can think about circumstances of your own, how they've evolved over time, and see where you can look back and go, yeah, I thought that was a mistake at the time, but I see that it wasn't, because it brought this, and this, or that nothing is really wrong going on out there. It's all just evolving and getting us to the next phase or season or journey in our lives. And again, everything happening for us is a much more secure, uh, happier, healthier approach than things life's just happening to us and we have no choices and everything's against us, and all that. That's all very negative. It's all very victim focused, which doesn't empower you to really take charge of your life. So, and then all is well. Okay. So, story number one, to go with law number one, whoever is present are the right people. Okay, some of you have heard me share before that one of the worst, most difficult seasons of my life was when I was 13 and a half years old and my parents got divorced, and I was forced to move out of the town I had lived in my entire life that I loved so much. I knew all my classmates really well. I loved my little town, very comfortable in the whole town, had tons of family around me. It was everything I'd ever known, a very secure life for me. And then suddenly, with 1 week's notice, my parents, split up, got divorced, had to leave my father behind. And I went with my mother and my sister to this other town, Harlan, Iowa, which was 3 times bigger than the one I'd grown up in. So it felt like a giant community to me. Now that's laughable to me, but it really was. It really felt intimidating at the time. And my brother was off to college, who I'd been so close to, and he was gone out of our lives for the first time. I mean, out of our daily lives. Well, anyway, so we moved to Harlan, have to start completely over, don't know anyone at all. And who were the people present that were the right people? Well, it amazed me how fast I made friends. But one in particular was just absolutely the sweetest, most welcoming person, and her name is Kathy. And she, saw me right away. I was right when I got to school. I was in, I think, her English class, and she told me later, she took one look at me and said, "Oh gosh, she's very pretty. I bet she's very nice too." And we became fast friends, and she ended up being my very best, closest friend in high school. And we are still in touch some today. But not only was it great that she came into my life and became such a close friend throughout those years, who I could tell anything to, and she could tell anything to. And we would sit for hours after school and eat popcorn and talk out all the school gossip and who liked who and what happened there and who gave who a look today and what were we going to do about that terrible assignment that awful teacher made, and all talked about all our problems and problems with her father and my mother, and whatever. We talked our whole lives out every day, it seemed. She also has this wonderful mother named Sue, who really kind of scooped me up and adopted me as a daughter as well, and provided me some motherly nurturing that, was just so comforting during that time. And she also really uplifted me and believed in me and empowered me, gave me a lot of empowering messages, and really supported me in my life so much through those few critical years there in Harlan, where my life had shifted so much and my family was in a huge disruption. And on top of that, there was a man at school, and I've mentioned him before as well because he died earlier this year, Dick Kluver, who was the school counselor, the high school counselor, who ended up providing me with tons of guidance, tons of therapeutic listening, and ended up being kind of an adopted dad to me as well. I mean, our relationship grew after high school and after I got out of high school, and he remained present in my life throughout my life as kind of a fatherly figure I really truly loved and enjoyed. But at the time in high school, I really credit him as well for being one of the people that just saved me emotionally through a really tumultuous time in my life. So there was him. And then at church, we went, the church we went to, everybody was very kind to all of us, of course, but one woman in particular named Bonnie was just right there with her big hugs, her big smile, and even, every once in a while I would say, let me take you out for a Coke. Let's just go out and talk. And she would just listen and again provide some real nurturance, some real acceptance, and all of these people and many more actually I could name who were strangers to me, didn't know they even existed. And yet there they are. They all showed up in their different roles in my life and really transformed what was one of the worst, horrible seasons in my life into one of the biggest blessings that, lasted a lifetime, that have lasted a lifetime. So I shudder to think what life would have been like for me if people like Bonnie, Dick, Kathy, and Sue did not show up at that critical season in my life. How would my life have gone? So whoever was present was just the right people. And the reason this is so amazing too to think about and reflect on is I left behind all these people that had really been a huge part of my life all my life and held me up throughout my life. And I'd had all these wonderful experiences with. I had to leave them behind. I mean, they were still in my life in the fringes, and of course the family members remained in my life very solid, but it just wasn't the same because we weren't in the same town anymore, didn't have access to them nearly, as much as I had and that kind of thing. So anyway, whoever is present are the right people. So think about these and reflect on times in your life. Who were those people that were just the right people to show up? And who are the people around you right now? Because they are the current right people for you right now to have in your lives for whatever reason, whether it's to help you grow or to collaborate with you or, be in relationship with at some level, whatever it is. Okay, story number 2. Whenever it begins is the right time. Whenever it begins is the right time. So some of you know that I took a sabbatical year after I, finished. I knew I was just done with a job I was working, which I'll talk more about later, and was ready to leave a community I'd lived in for 10 years, which is where I got divorced and our kids, finished high school and all that jazz. And then I took this year to travel around to figure out where I wanted to move and really land for my next community and where I wanted to start my coaching business and all of that. And I decided after much contemplation and travel and everything that I was going to move to Lawrence, Kansas. But I still had a home in my former community, Atchison, Kansas, which was an hour from Lawrence. And so I went after all my travels. I still had this house. I went back to it and was staying in it. And I thought, well, I'd love to move to Lawrence right now, but I got to get this house sold first. I can't have a house for sale and also make have a house payment and then also make some kind of rental or mortgage payment, a second one, in Lawrence. So I have to wait. And I didn't know how long that was going to take, if it was going to take 6 months or 6 years. I mean, the housing market was nothing like it is now. It was actually kind of struggling at that time. So anyway, I just sort of, had to trust that the timing would be right. But I was really wanting it to be sooner rather than later. Well, of all things, I wouldn't have known about this. This never would have occurred to me. But I went out to the mailbox one day shortly after I had decided I would indeed move to Lawrence. This was a day in September of 2016. So about 8 years ago, right now, honestly. Walked out to my mailbox like any other day, get the mail out of the box at the house in Atchison. I'm walking back to along my driveway to go back in with the mail in my hand. And I hear a voice say, "You're going to move to Lawrence and your house is not going to be sold." I mean, I literally heard this. This came into my head. I heard it. You're going to move to Lawrence without your house being sold. And so then I started arguing with the voice and saying, "Well, that's ridiculous. There's no way I'm going to do that. That's a dumb idea." And I went in the house and I put the mail down on my desk and went about my day and didn't think anything of it. Well, I can't remember if it was the next day or the next day after that, but it was very soon after that. Some friends of mine in the same town I lived in called me up. I didn't have any clue this was going on. And they said, "Hey, you know what? We put our house up for sale 5 days ago because we want to move in June after our last child graduates from high school. So we put it up for sale now thinking, well, hopefully it'll sell by about June so we can move," because they were going to leave the town we were living in as well. And their house sold immediately. And so they had to get out of it, but yet they needed to stay in the town because they have this son who's still in high school, in his senior year of high school. So really, they called me up. Melody called me up to say, "Hey, we've got to rent something and we haven't rented in decades. And we realized we need references to be able to rent a place in Atchison. And would you be a reference for us?" I mean, I knew them very well. Some of our kids had grown up together, just really good relationship. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I would be more than happy to do that. But I really wish you thought my house would be a good one to rent." And she said, "Oh, we love your little house. We think it would be perfect, but we didn't want to rush you out of town." And I said, "Oh, no. No, you wouldn't be rushing me out of town. This is great. Let's see what we can do." And so I didn't have to put them through any of the legal schmiegel crap that, landlords need to put them through. I mean, I did get a contract worked up, and they agreed to rent that would completely cover the mortgage of the little house. So I could go spend my money on a rental or a mortgage in Lawrence. A few days later, I had scheduled a full day to look at places in Lawrence, and I scheduled my most favorite one as the first one of the day, but had 9 others to look at that day. And I went to Lawrence that day, and I loved the first place, and the landlord of the first place loved me. And I think we thought it was a done deal, but I said to her, "Hey, I have all these other places lined up, all these other landlords to meet. I do want to honor those and spend the day and see if anything feels better than this, but I can't imagine that it does." And for sure it did not. And so by gosh, I signed a contract there that very day. So this whole thing, and then a month later, we were all moved. And so all that decision, I'm going to move to Lawrence. I wish I could move sooner rather than later, but I'm going to have to wait. Oh, guess what? The universe says you're not going to have to wait. I'm going to have these people call you up for something else, and then realize it's a solution, a win-win solution for both of you. They can move, not go through anything. You can move, not go through anything. So when it begins is the right time. So I moved to Lawrence at the end of October in 2016, and it's been one of the greatest decisions of my life. So there you go. And I could have never set that up to work out in that timing in that way. I never would have known. So it was all done for me. It was all done for me. So whenever it begins is the right time. So how about that for a story? Now, story number 3, to go with spiritual, the third immutable law of the spirit. Whatever happens is the only thing that could have happened. Okay, so we're going to back up again to me in high school again. And I belonged to the Community of Christ denomination church at that time. And a tradition in the Community of Christ church is to have the teenagers go on a trip, a caravan around the country, where we would visit historical sites of the church and learn more about the history of our church and so forth, and have these great campfire experiences and all these wonderful experiences. It's like a long trip, and you prepare for months, and you can go once in your high school years because it only would happen once every 4 years or whatever. So I was of age to go, but I was the very youngest age to go, 14, and a freshman, going to be a freshman in high school. And I wanted to go so badly, but my mom didn't think it was the best thing for me to go. And I just thought, why, why wouldn't she want me to go at this time? And I think there were lots of factors. We were in transition. It was, it was a commitment financially, and we didn't have a lot of money and stuff. But my dad told me, he said, "Oh, Cindy, if God wants you to go on the caravan, you're going to go. So don't worry about it. If God wants you to go, you're going to go." And I thought, oh, well, God will want me to go. This is a church trip. It's a safe trip. It's a wonderful youth activity. It's all about God. I mean, that God will want me to go. And so I thought, well, that's true. I'll just sit back and relax because I'm clearly going to get to go on this caravan because God's going to want me to go. So, of course, I was claiming that I knew what God would want or know was best. Whatever happens is the only thing that could happen. This is story number 3. Well, guess what? My mom kept saying, "No, you're not going. You are not going. You can go in 4 years when you're you're a senior. It's when you're the oldest age in the group, not the youngest. Then you can think about it then, but you're not going now." And I was just crushed. I thought, wow, even God couldn't change my mom's mind. If God wanted me to go, he could change my mom's mind maybe, or whatever. I had these thoughts. I was 14 at the time. Well, then I went to my week of church camp in the summer that I always went at Guthrie Grove. Wonderful experience every year. One of the best, best experiences of my life every year. Great friends, wonderful times, meaningful activities, spiritual experiences, the whole shebang, right? I went there, and one of the guys there who was teaching one of our classes, or maybe he was one of the directors, I can't remember, but he was on staff there. And I just met him that year, and we got along really well. I really liked him and his family and everything. He said to me, "Hey, I need a teacher for small kids' class at another camp we have this summer out here. And it's at the end of July. And I'd really love for you to do it. Would you think about doing that? Would you consider doing that? I think you'd be great with the little kids." The person who was going to do this had to drop out of it. And I'm looking to fill that role, and I want you to fill it. And I was like, "When is it?" And guess what the timing was? It was the exact timing as that caravan was going to be going on. So this gentleman invites me to do this, come and teach. He says, "Don't worry about paying to be here, for your food or whatever. We've got that covered." And so I said, "Well, I have to ask my mom." And I asked my mom, and I said, "Will you ask her with me?" Because she was going to come pick me up from camp. And he said, "Absolutely." And so he kind of put his arm around her and he said, "Hey, Caroline, we've got this role we need filled. We'd love to have Cindy come and fill the role. We've got everything covered where she can stay and, the expenses for her food and everything. If you'll just let her come." And I said, "Oh, Mom, I would love to do this. Could I please do this?" And she agreed to it. So guess what? I firmly believe that, nope, God didn't want me to go on the caravan because God wanted me at that other camp helping with those small kids, which was just an absolutely rewarding, wonderful, life-changing experience for me. And then, 4 years later, I did go on the caravan. So, it all worked out. Whatever happens is the only thing that could have happened. So it's just, again, everything's happening for us. Nothing is wrong. There are no mistakes. I love this. All is well. I love these laws. Thank you, Harrison Owen. Okay, last one. Number 4. Are you tired of stories yet? I hope not, because there's one more to go, which goes to the 4th law, according to Harrison Owen. When it's over, it's over. Now, I thought about talking about, the death of my father. I thought about talking about the end of my first marriage. I thought, there were lots of endings that came to my mind, when I thought of this 4th immutable law of the spirit. And I'm sure you can think of many yourself right in this moment. But the one I decided to share was when I left my last job of working with other people, which was at the All Faith Counseling Center, a nonprofit counseling center in Atchison, Kansas, that I loved with all of my heart and soul. I worked there for 7.5 years. I was the executive director. I had 30 clients at a time, 30 therapy clients at a time. I loved the staff. I loved the work. I loved our location. It was just one of the most rewarding professional stretches of my life. And at the same time, I was getting very burned out. I was getting very tired. I had always wanted to work for myself, have my own coaching business. And I was, I had lived 10 years in Atchison, and during that time got divorced, and then the kids left the empty nest. And there just seemed to have been a full evolution of our lives in those 10 years, and I knew it was time to leave. I just knew it. I knew this is over for me. It's time for me to walk away. And I felt the tiredness that I was experiencing and the burnout and things was going to begin to affect my ability to run the counseling center well. And so I knew, okay, you've got to go. You've got to leave so you can free them up to find somebody with fresh ideas or whatever was meant to evolve and happen for the counseling center. Let it go and let yourself go and go find, your new community and start your business and so forth. And so I announced that I was leaving, and the resistance was ginormous from, the center, the staff, the board, the community, the clients. I mean, I don't think anybody really felt comfortable with the idea of me leaving, but I knew in my heart of hearts, and I knew I was being spiritually led to leave. And so I stuck with it anyway, because I knew, this chapter of my life is over. It is over. So even though people, wanted this and wanted that and resisted that change, and I too didn't know where my life was going. I sincerely didn't know. I didn't know where I was going to live. I didn't know how it would go running my own business, if I'd even be able to do it or survive doing it. I mean, there were tons of question marks and unknowns in my life, but yet I knew on a deep spiritual level, this chapter is over. I've got to accept that, and I've got to walk away and start fresh. And so that's exactly what I did. So, when it's over, it is over. So I want you to reflect on these laws of the spirit by Harrison Owen. They're very simplistic in language, in speak, but they're in speak. Is that even a thing? But I'm distracted. There's a big bee buzzing around me right now. What I mean is they're stated very simply, very straightforwardly, but they are very deep spiritual concepts. And if you can grab onto them and believe them and trust them, the meaning you put around all aspects of your life will be richer for you. They will be more joy-filled. You'll feel more secure, more trust in your life, more faith in how it's all evolving. So I'm going to repeat them one more time. Think about how this can mean something to you. Number 1, whoever is present are the right people. Number 2, whenever it begins is the right time. Number 3, whatever happens is the only thing that could have happened. And 4, when it's over, it's over. So my friends, I promise you, no matter what it is, you can trust that all is well. Everything is happening for you. There are no mistakes and nothing is wrong. So take it in, see if you can buy into it, see if you can believe it, see what you can do with that helps serve you and bring you a happier, healthier life today. Thank you so much for listening, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for listening to the Life Makeovers podcast. Please like, subscribe, and share this podcast with those that you think would also benefit from what we're doing here. And I will talk to you again soon.